Hi everyone, I'm Sally Rowden and I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Cambridge in social anthropology at St John's College, and today I'm going to talk to you about online research. And so I think that online research is how things are going to proceed for the foreseeable future with COVID, because we don't have access to libraries and we don't know how things are going to shake down over the next little while. But also these are just really good skills to have under your belt. And so I'm proceeding on the idea that you have access to the internet, maybe at home, maybe through your local library, maybe through your school. You might have access to some academic resources through those places, but you also might not. And so there's still a lot that you can do as an independent researcher, which is someone who's operating outside an institution. And so that's how I'm going to proceed today. So I guess this is things like open access journals, Google Books, researchers' own copies of their work are often made available as PDFs. And yeah, you might be able to find a kind of there's a couple of other kind of treasure troves that I want to show you along the way. Okay, so I guess the place where I want to start is that researching at university is different. What counts as a scholarly source is different from just a general source. And so I wanted to just take you through this quickly. So this is a nice piece from Berkeley Library talking about what is the difference between a scholarly source and a popular source. And so it's things like journals, academic books. These are vetted by other academics. So this, you're going to get kind of an authorized, this counts as knowledge. And it might be controversial knowledge, but it does count as an original contribution to knowledge within this discipline. So this peer evaluation also means that the particular styles of publishing mean that there's bibliographies, citations that you can really follow and do a deep dive into the topics that you're really interested in. So I guess when you're searching just for something online, you're not necessarily getting that. So what you're getting is not a kind of a contribution of knowledge within a discipline. You're getting the ranking from a search engine, that matches a search query with term frequency and the number of web pages that the engine can access. So these aren't necessarily the right way to answer an academic question. So one of the things that you will have access to is certain types of ebooks. And so I thought that I would show you here, this is Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes, so an important political theory book. And within this, we're going to books and we're looking at any books. And what we really want is the free Google book. So let's look this up. And yeah, we can go and look at the original publication here. So it's all going to be here. You can see that this is going to be quite the pain to read. But, the information is there for us, and this is in Latin, which is only so helpful. But anyway, so moving back to Project Gutenberg has digitized a huge number of texts. So it's always looking for something that's out of copyright, that was published a while ago. And this has the advantage of, it's published in English. It's all here and you can search it. So that's really great. And so that comes to, I guess, another really important advantage of, let me just switch this back so I can talk to you properly. Of ebooks. So why would you use an ebook? One is that you don't have to go to the library, it comes to you, which is fantastic. And most of your course books will be available electronically. It will be surprising if they're not. And so you don't have to trek over to whatever library holds the book. The other thing that's so valuable is that you can search for terms or citations that you want to track down. So this is incredibly helpful. And the other thing is that a lot of libraries will have the kind of license where you can download a chapter or a section of the book and you can mark it up digitally yourself. So you can kind of annotate it, mark it up, follow, highlight stuff, whatever you want to do to kind of work with the text yourself. So those are some things about, so it's incredible. It's like, and you can bookmark them as well. So you can kind of develop your own library, which is just great. So That's books. They take longer to come to publication than journals because journals are much shorter. And so why do you want to look at journal articles? Because they're published so much faster, they're vetted, and they're often where the kind of current debates are happening in your discipline. So they're great ways to come up to speed. The downside with journals is that there are just so many. So how are you going to find the journals that are relevant to you before you as you find your feet in what you're studying? So a great way to do that is to look for journals that have high impact, because this is going to be where the kind of top minds in your discipline are publishing regularly. So back to the shared screen for a moment. One moment, please. So if I pull here, this is a list of high impact journals in social anthropology, which is what I study. Now, not all of these are relevant to me, but I know that if I look at Cultural Anth or ARA or Current Anthropology or American Anthropologist, I'm going to find stuff that is relevant and that is really good to look at. It's going to be stuff that is relevant to me. And so these are easy to find. You're going to be able to find them by just doing your own internet sleuthing. So let's have a look at another way to track down what are the influential works that are worth citing. So let's have a look here. Let's say that I'm looking for Kantorawitz's King's Two Bodies, which is a political theorist from the 1950s. And so I know that that's when this book was published. But look at that number of citations. That's huge. That means that it's being used by a lot of people. And the other really great thing about Google Scholar is that you can get these citations right here, probably in quite close to whatever referencing system you need to use. And you can also plug them into the referencing system that you're using to log your readings for yourself. So back to, yeah, that's a lot of citations. How do I know which ones are kind of current for me? So let's have a look and plug in. I want to make sure that it fits my discipline, that I'm not getting a whole bunch of other stuff. Wow, there's a whole lot of things here. That's really interesting. Okay, and a lot of these are pretty recent. Okay, let me see if I can take this back. Okay. That's great as well. There's a whole bunch of stuff there of authors that I recognize. That's going to be interesting. What about if I say I want it to be recent? So I'm limiting the range there. And I know that this one here is going to be something that I want to read because it's really relevant to me. I know that author, and it's not cited by many people yet, but it was only published last year. So that's going to be useful to me. And I can just click through there and I can find views here. These PDFs are really helpful to track down as well. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you is you can also plug in, say that I want to look for this book and I'd like to look for a PDF of it because I'm searching for sections online. So I might be taken to the author's own site or some kind of other authorized clip. So I'm looking for that. And let's see here, it says PDF here. So I'm going to click through onto this. And yeah, it's here. So I'm going to be able to read this chapter and that's going to be a valuable resource to me. The other resources that I wanted to give you a quick tour of are that a lot of universities have open access resources. So this is one at CUP, and let's say I'm looking for citizenship here, but I want to show only open access. And so this is going to get me a crawl through things that I can access today. And so I can look through this and find things that are useful to me. The other thing I wanted to show you is that a lot of universities have encyclopedias of topics, so you can get a kind of a deep dive and up-to-date references that you can follow down yourself. So let's say here I am at the Cambridge Encyclopedia of Anthropology, and I'd like to look up some stuff on sexuality. I'm going to plug in queer, and it's going to come up with queer anthropology, so I can follow this through. And we get here, it's a really great overview, and down the back, here are all the references that I can use to make a kind of a dive through. So you get this sense of how I'm setting up a kind of treasure hunt for myself each time. Another really great one that you might want to have a look at is the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, which is just a really great overview of all kinds of topics. So 2 other things very quickly is that I wanted to show you Library Hub Discover, which again has access to all kinds of online freely available resources, so you can track that down. And another one that is incredibly useful is Open Culture, which has all kinds of online courses, lectures, it's got people reading their own work, lots of really interesting free movies, and loads of ebooks down here. So I recommend it very highly. There's textbooks here as well. So there's all kinds of resources here. It's quite the treasure trove, so it's really worth looking at. So the other thing that I wanted to say to you just in closing is that something that isn't talked about nearly often enough is that reading is different at university as well. And so it's different from how you read on your phone, or it's different from how you read novels or for pleasure. And one of so you have to you learn different strategies for how to do this, and there'll be a link for this at the end as well. But the kind of way to crack the code on this is you need to read the introduction of the article and read the conclusion, so you know the points that they're trying to make, and then you can skim through the body of it and decide whether you need to read it more closely. And that works for books as well. So if you start with the intro, then read the conclusion, and then read the chapters where they build their case, it's a much more efficient way of reading. And then you can go through and read more closely if you want to. All right. Hey, thank you for making it to the end with me, and really good luck on your applications to university, all the luck in the world. And I hope to see you at St John's College in Cambridge, where I know that you'll get a rigorous education that will last you your life. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Great, so thank you so much, Sally, for that. That was really helpful. Just finally, a few tips on where to start. So obviously Sally gave some really great suggestions of some resources there, but I just wanted to put a few of these things up as well. I think for sciences it can be quite difficult to know where to start, particularly because a lot of scientific journals are at quite a high level. But actually what's quite important to remember is that a lot of the scientific magazines out there, so like Nature magazine, New Scientist, Scientific American, a lot of them will have some really useful resources because they tend to have some plain language summaries of some of the scientific knowledge that's in there. So those can be a really great place to start if you're not really sure what you want to be doing your research project in. Of course, sciences aren't the only things that have magazines. I've got a History Today up there as well, would be a great place to start for history. Just have a quick look around and see if you can find any magazines that would be useful places to start off some of your research. I've also just popped up there the Very Short Introduction series. They tend to be, as the name suggests, a good short introduction to a topic, and obviously in the back they'll have a bibliography with lots of recommendations of other good places to do some research from. I've also added TED Talks and podcasts. Don't forget that there are some really great places to sort of spark your interest in topics that you might not necessarily have thought of. If you've still not got any idea where to start exploring your subject further, then why not check out our supercurricular activities video, which is on the Open Days page of the St John's website.